guys, welcome back to the Annie Black Show. Today we're here with someone who was a poker player, a Las Vegas professional poker player, and turned from a poker player to a teacher. I don't know how you end up there, but we're going to find out in this episode. So welcome to the show, John Bruchhagen.
Well done. Thank you, Annie Black.
He has a very unique name. How would you say it?
Well, if you lived in Germany and if you show a German my driver's license, they look at it, oh yeah, John Bruchhagen, Bruchhagen. But if you show an American my driver's license, they don't even know where to start.
It has like 3 H's in it.
That's why I go by Johnny Bru.
Yeah, Johnny Bru.
Mr. Bru.
Mr. Bru.
I know my dad was Mr. Bru, so it's a little rough. I'm thinking of going to school to get my doctorate just so I could let my dad be Mr. Bru. And I could go on to be Dr. Bru.
Dr. Bru.
Like Dr.
You could start
Joe.
your own line of beer.
Dr. Bru.
All right. So anyways, just to give you guys a little bit of background, I know John from politics. That's how we originally met. Do you know what year that was?
2019, I think you got started, and I don't think I met you till 21.
Yeah. And we actually first met on your show, I think.
How the tables have turned.
How the tables have turned.
Yeah. And he was saying, what are we going to do? That's your problem now.
I know. All the pressure's on me. But anyways, so let's get started. So tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you came from. I know you live in Vegas now. You don't live in Mesquite, but we'll get to how all this kind of makes sense here
Well,
in a little
Mesquite,
bit.
my people.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you could tell, but I'm from the East Coast. I moved here in 2005 from Long Island, New York. I was born and raised in Queens, right close to our current president. And then I moved out to Long Island when I was about 8 or 9 years old with my parents. And then when I was 29, in 2005, I moved out here to fabulous Las Vegas.
How old were you when you moved to Vegas?
24 plus 5 is 29. I just did the math. You made me do it again.
So when you moved to Vegas, did you come out here to be a poker player or did you go to school?
More or less. I ran some businesses in New York, and I was also running some poker games, which were actually technically illegal. So, and I came close a couple of times to getting pinched, and I really loved poker. I loved playing it. And then when I was offered my first job, I was like, no, I'm doing just fine playing. And they told me that I would have a big win every night if I worked instead of played. And I was like, all right, I'm in. So I started doing that. And then almost getting pinched, I thought, what better place than Las Vegas to find unlimited games, as well as unlimited opportunities to run games or run a room. And, heaven forbid I did get pinched, I would never be able to work in a casino for the rest of my life. So I figured, let me give it a shot. I had won a big tournament. I sold 2 businesses, so things were pretty good.
Wow, that's crazy. So what were the businesses that you sold?
I had a landscaping business and a sign store in a strip mall. And both of them are businesses that I worked for years, loyal and everything else. And then I bought out my boss in both instances. In one of them, it was my dad. But nonetheless, I bought out my bosses, and my bosses worked for me after I had bought them out. Because just like, I'm watching you set up the podcast, and I'm thinking, I love just being a guest.
Right.
My bosses were thinking, I wish I could just show up at work, cut a lawn, and then go home and not answer the phone and not return calls. And they did. And I took the responsibility and the extra money, and they took the regular job. And he was actually an FDNY guy. So what he did was he had like 30 accounts where, in the FDNY, I don't know how much you guys know, they would work like 36-hour shifts and then get 5 days off, and then 3 days on, 4 days off, 24. I don't know how it worked exactly. But so all of the firefighters would moonlight. One guy would build decks. Another guy was a painter. Another guy installed carpet. My guy, Scott, he was a landscaper. So the base of the business was I was cutting 30 other FDNY guys' lawns for 7-8 years before I bought the business. we grew to about from 30 to 100 accounts because I took it full time as opposed to what he was doing. But, you know, as you could imagine, 9/11 was really, really rough because, you know, 5 of my customers were deeply affected. 3 of my customers actually passed away. And, you know, and not only was 9/11 rough, but the next 3-4 years watching their kids grow up without a dad. And, you know, I mean, 9/11 was a real dark time in New York. It was really rough. I mean, it was beautiful. The community came together. The widows and these children had more support than probably if their father was still alive because the community just came together and wanted everybody to feel loved. But, you know, you hear about terrorism in Israel, but, you know, when people you know are dying in 9/11, that really woke people up.
I guess on that note, I hadn't even planned on talking about that because I hadn't even. No, I mean, it's not every day that you get to talk to somebody that was in New York or not in New York, but like in the area during that attack. Is there anything that you think that the majority of people who weren't there, who weren't living in the area at the time, but are Americans, don't understand about the attack, or how, like, any insights you can give from being there?
Well, the first thing is, you know, people talk about September 12th, and I heard the whole country was like that, you know, coming together. And look, I'm even getting chills just trying to think back. I mean, it was like the 4th of July parade, just driving up. And like I said, I would cut these lawns in these, you know, cute little neighborhoods, you know, relative to, say, Summerlin in Las Vegas. And going down the block, I mean, people would have, every single house had an American flag. Like I said, I knew a lot of FDNY guys were my customers. So obviously their neighbors also knew that this guy was FDNY, whether he passed away or he just lost his friends and stuff like that. So, you know, just the community aspect was on steroids. I don't think people even really truly understand what September 12th meant to us, at least us on Long Island. Number 2, you know, that week I went down to the site at least a couple of times to try to help, just like they're doing in Texas with the floods currently and stuff like that. And I couldn't help. You know, and thank God, because a lot of people breathed in some bad stuff, but there was so many people that were grieving, but at the same time wanting to help, wanting to do anything they can. And that carried on for a long, long time, well beyond September 12th. These families, you know, until I moved in 2005, there was still a special kinship and bond between people who, you know, even if you didn't lose somebody, just experiencing it as a community.
Right, I'm sure. I mean, it's a bonding experience, whether it's negative or positive, I guess. Maybe the negative things bond people together more than the positive sometimes.
The Twin Towers were my number one tourist get. Like, for example, here, you got to go see the Bellagio fountains, right? Or whatever it is that you might think is, or the conservatory. There, it was the Twin Towers. They were, awesome. Literally the definition of awesome. And it's kind of weird, but I hadn't been to the Twin Towers in a couple of years. And my wife at the time had company come in from Minnesota, and we had to do our, you know, just like if I want to do a quick tour of Vegas, I drive down the strip and there's your tour. So I had a route in New York City of people who needed to sightsee, and it was, you know, the Twin Towers, the Statue of Liberty, and then, you know, Times Square in Midtown. So we went to the Twin Towers, the Top of the World restaurant, and took lots and lots and lots of pictures after going to the Sunday night Yankee game. So on Sunday night, we went to the Yankee game. We went to the Top of the World restaurant until like 1 a.m. So then you figure 8 hours later is 9 a.m. plus 24. That's 33 hours later is when the planes hit. And we were, and I hadn't been there for 2 or 3 years. I just happened to be there within a couple of days of them not existing anymore.
Wow, that's wild.
It's weird, especially when you're driving into the city. The Twin Towers used to be the first 2 things you'd see. So, you know, oh, we're getting close. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's trippy. They're just not there.
Yeah, having never been to New York, it's hard to even understand, but what a crazy experience that must have been. So,
and now they have the footprints with the infinity pools. They have a museum there, and it's very tactfully done. I pray that they could be as tactful and nice about it with the October 1st thing here in Vegas.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's
Sorry
talk.
to throw you off track. What were you talking
you're good.
about?
No, it's like, again, not every day you get to talk to somebody with that kind of experience. So that's crazy. But let's talk about, you came to Vegas, went to UNLV, decided you were going to go, be a teacher. But tell us about going from the poker table and sitting there and thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, tell that story, because that's interesting.
It's one of those things that a moment can change your life. And all my life, I always thought, I was always a business owner. And then even I kind of consider being a professional poker player almost like running a business. And that's how I ran it, which is probably the reason why I lasted so long. You see a lot of people come and go in that business. But one day I'm sitting there and, you have the most beautiful girls in the world bringing you free food and free drinks. You're sitting in a palace, whether it be Bellagio or Wynn or something, Casablanca or the Orleans. There, just because we're used to Caesar's Palace doesn't mean that the Orleans isn't beautiful, So you have all the opulence and you have all the beauty and the dream, before you're oh my God, I want to be a professional poker player. Like, that's my job, and it's definitely not as glamorous, especially if you want to be successful. And I'm sitting at the table and everybody's miserable. We got opulence and royalty, and we're more comfortable playing a game than kings and queens were just 100 years ago, between the air conditioning and the free food, and everybody's like yelling at each other, and it's really nasty. And I'm doing well, but I'm surrounding myself with this misery. And at first I used to get off on kicking the butt of these miserable people, you know what I mean? But after a while it gets old. And then I would look at some of the other people that I had a lot of respect for, some of the best poker players in the world that, I got to know a lot of them. And they've been playing poker for 40 years, and now they're 70, 75, 80 years old. Some of them are passing away. Some of them have bad habits. So, and I'm thinking, are we going to just chip around some pieces of plastic for 60 straight years and then die? Like, what kind of a life is that, Even if I'm winning, I'm making a living, but I'm not giving anything back to society. So throughout my life, I always thought I wanted to retire and become a teacher and a basketball coach, thinking not for the money, not for any, I'm going to retire. I'll go into the school, like an old man. I'll teach them math, and that'll be like my hobby in retirement. So I was sitting there thinking, well, if I'm not going to play poker, which I've invested so much time and money into, what am I going to do? And I said, well, I've always wanted to be a teacher. Forget about the money. What do you want to do? And I thought, well, I always wanted to be a teacher. And I looked it up. I think Obama was giving away money for school with the Pell Grants. And then that's another thing we could talk about. When I showed up there, they're like, oh, here's student loans. And I'm like, no, I don't need the student loans, because I had money from poker. And then Obama was doing the Pell Grant stuff. So I'm good. And so I signed up. I went to school. And then after 2 semesters or 3 semesters, they kept saying, listen, you're going to be a teacher. They're giving away this student loan money. And I'm telling you, trust me, you're never going to have to pay it back because you're a teacher. So there's going to be programs. There's going to be stuff that people get these loans, and off the record, you're never going to have to pay it back. Don't worry. Just it's free money. So I said, okay. Now I got like 30 something thousand in student loans still that I'm repaying and stuff like that. You know. So they lied about that. But anyway, I went back to school. I got the highest GPA in UNLV history for my major, secondary education, mathematics. Wow. And I love math. And it's taboo to say, but I love kids. I love teaching. And it was like a match made in heaven. The kids love learning from me, and I love sharing mathematics, because even, arguing politics, even something as obvious as, boys are boys and girls are girls, right? You got to watch yourself and you got to really prove, you got to bring your evidence. Well, in math, it's all been proven, and it's commonsensical, so it's not like you're trying to teach them how to say, strawberry daiquiri in Spanish, or was it banana daiquiri in The Godfather? Anyway.
Well, I think daiquiri already is kind of Spanish.
Well, that was the joke. How do you say banana daiquiri? And Al Pacino, I think it is, says
I'm a
banana
fail.
daiquiri.
I'm a fail on that. I haven't seen it.
But anyway, so it could make no sense. Moon, and then you learn in Spanish it's luna, or in Shakespeare, you got to read between the lines, whatever the hell that means. And science, COVID proved that the science changes every day. History is written by the victors, right? We'd be talking about how great Hitler was if the Nazis won World War II, right? And how evil everybody else was. So everything is changed and subject to opinion, but math is the only truth we have in this world. And it just makes sense. So when you teach it, it gives kids the ability to learn how to think, not what to think. You see how things fit together, and when things don't make sense. And it's really, I don't want to get too hyperbolic, but it's God's language. It's the only language God gave us. If aliens came here, right, what's the first thing we're going to say to them? Are we going to talk about the nuance of Shakespearean sonnets, or are we going to talk about how many other aliens are on your spacecraft? Mm-hmm. How many more aliens are coming here? How far away do you live? Like, everything we would need to conversate about revolves around math. And the only thing that they would understand that we asked them would be about math. Because if you start talking about, whatever, thermodynamics or something, they could have a totally different energy system. Who knows?
So, and you wrote a book, which is going to come out soon, and we're going to talk about that. But I'm sitting here, and truth be told, I got pretty sick. I think it was like 6th, 7th grade, missed a lot of school, and then just totally fell behind in math and never caught back up. Like, it was just one of those things that I was just one of those people that would see math equations and just like shut down, right? Like, it didn't work for me. But sitting here...
Somebody trained you to do that, just so you know. Somebody trained you to have that feeling. Somebody said, math is hard, or it doesn't make sense, or don't worry about that, you'll have a calculus. Somebody implanted that fear into you.
Well, that's what I'm sitting here thinking, like, listening to you talking about math. I guess my question is, it's almost like I want to learn math sitting here talking to you, listening to your excitement about it. What do you think it is about teachers? I guess it's not maybe specific to only math, but do all teachers, in your opinion, go into teaching thinking, I'm so jacked about this, like, this is awesome, I can't wait to do this, and then they just kind of get beat down by the system? Or?
That's why I wrote the book. Mm-hmm. I mean, teachers have an average, I think new teachers last less than a year, certainly less than, the average I think is like 2 years or 1.5 years, and 80% of teachers quit within the first 5 years of starting teaching. And that's why I wrote the book, Teach Like It Matters, because it does is because as education becomes more macro-managed as opposed to, you're getting, literally, we have the Secretary of Education and the president of the teachers union trying to tell everybody in the country what and how they should be teaching. Some schools, including CCSD, they give the teachers scripts of what to say. And obviously, anybody could read a script, and eventually we might as well just have AI reading the script. And this is made for teachers to remember why they went into teach. Nobody went into teaching thinking, I want CCSD to provide me with a step-by-step script and everything pre-made for me so that way I don't have to work. People wanted to teach them because, I'm good at explaining things and I love kids and I want to, make kids grow up strong and whatever the virtue, whether it's about knowledge or community or whatever. Teachers get into teaching because they want to serve and they want to interact with their students. And then liability takes over and macro management from the top takes over, and you realize that you're just a cog in a wheel. They could get anybody to read these scripts. The only thing they're worried about is liability. They're more worried about, the language you use in the classroom than how well the students are learning, or if you're shaking hands, or if you're enforcing the dress code, or everything is about liability. And none of it is about how much the students are learning. And it was really frustrating. And I could see where teachers would do this for a few years and, this is not for me, because the pay ain't great. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of work from home stuff you got to do, a lot of preparation. And that's what I'm aiming to absolve. From the book, Teach Like It Matters, it's just advice on how to maintain your personality and maintain your individualism and maintain your passion while conforming to the barriers that they give you in teaching, especially the bigger the public school, the more, it's micromanaged from up top. And then I also wrote the curriculum. The book is really in order to support and promote the curriculum. I've wrote a teacher's manual that gives teachers everything. It has 4 different lesson plans per lesson, because why are you supposed to write a lesson plan in advance if you don't know what kind of mood you're in? Mm-hmm. You can't write a lesson plan to go outside and do math in the dirt like the Egyptians did 2,500 years ago if it's raining that day.
Right.
Or, I heard some teachers like to booze it up. What if they had a kinesthetic lesson plan where they got to do a bunch of interactive stuff and they're hungover? Well, there's 4 lesson plans there: a basic, a lecture, a kinesthetic where they touch stuff like this, and a unique one that's built specifically for that lesson, so they could teach according to their mood or the class's mood or what's going on in the school. Maybe there's a fire drill that day, so let's just go back to this lesson plan. There's scripted lessons with stage directions, because a lot of times math teachers won't give substitutes the real lesson because they won't teach it right and they won't do it right, and we can get really screwed up. So let's just give them some busy work for a day. Well, now you got scripted lessons where a substitute could literally read off the thing, or you could follow along with the website. You'll have me teaching it to you or supplementing the teacher's teaching. And it's all designed to give teachers their time back, their energy back, their passion back. What teacher wants to go home after teaching for 7 hours, 8 hours, which, if you don't know, that's like 12 hours in real people, like giving a speech, you would know. It takes a lot out of you. You gave a 60-minute speech. It's not like you worked for 60 minutes. You got to go home and take a nap because you want to be on. You want to be sharp. Well, teachers are going through that all day, every day. So do you want to go home and take a nap or chill? Or do you want to go home and write a 2-3 hour lesson plan for the next day's work? So everything is there. The homeworks are there. The answer keys are there. The version B, if you caught a kid cheating, you got another version of the test right there. Like, all the tools that a teacher needs to be successful and, more important, confident is all included right there. And it follows along all the Common Core and Nevada state standards, but it also is supplemented with things like geometry or statistics that kids will see on the SBAC and MAP tests. So that way the school's ratings start going through the roof, because a lot of times they'll see stuff on those standardized tests that they haven't seen since 6th grade.
Right.
And meanwhile, you just got to remind the kid what an isosceles triangle is. It's not rocket science. It's stuff that makes sense. Math is just counting and shortcuts to counting faster. That's all it is. Quantifying something.
Yeah. I wish I would have had you as a teacher back in the day. Don't worry, I figured it out.
Good.
I got there eventually. But, honestly, that's, I think, owed a lot in large part to homeschooling my kids for a year. And really, you can't have a better way of learning something than if you had to sit there and teach it.
Absolutely. And like I said, I did really good at UNLV, learning all the maths and everything. But then when I went and I taught the geometry class, the second year I taught it, it was totally different. Like, you don't really learn something until you teach it. And maybe that's why I did good, because at UNLV, first of all, I took these courses people thought I couldn't do. I would take Calc 1, Calc 2, 400 geometry, and some education course. And somebody said, there's no way you're going to pass all of them. And I got straight A's, but it's because over the summer, I would take the MIT courseware stuff and I would learn calculus myself. Then I would go to class having already learned the material, so then the teacher is making sense. Because a lot of times if the teacher's teaching you something new, you're just holding on to the table and trying to take notes fast enough, but you're not really considering what they're saying. But because I gave myself a background, even though the first go around, I didn't really get everything I was doing, Then the teacher explains it to you. I know where the lesson's going. I know where we were. I have a command of the vocabulary. So the teacher is totally making sense to me. And then after class, everybody would leave and I would keep like 4 students behind and I would reteach what we just learned to the kids, which made me remember it in my long-term memory,
Right.
Which is why like when I do group work with kids, the group work is more for the kid who's doing the teaching than the kid who's getting peer tutored, which helps them as well. But it's really about the kid who's doing the teaching because you remember it forever.
That's crazy. It's interesting. So let's talk about, I wanted to go a couple different directions there, but right now what I think is really important is, people in this area in the Virgin Valley, mainly in Mesquite, for a couple of years, they've been talking about wanting to get away from Clark County School District and start their own school district. And I think that's a very long shot, and I don't know that it'll ever happen. Let's say best case scenario, it does. Worst case scenario, it doesn't. What is something that a parent can do to help? Because I will acknowledge that even though we're part of CCSD, I think our schools overperform here because we have a lot of engaged parents.
And that's the secret. Men in the school, having men, even if it's a janitor, security guards, having more men in the school is really, really important. Because I feel like, especially if a kid comes from a single mother household, which, comes with their own challenges, and God bless single moms. But if they go to school and then they're surrounded by women as authority figures, God bless all women, but men and women are different. And some of these boys just need a man to just say, stop that. Don't do that anymore. And it's the kids respond differently to that. And that was just a minor point. That was a bigger point.
But I would say in our town, right? Like we're a small rural town. We don't always also agree with the
way they're teaching or what they're teaching.
And the stuff they're teaching, like some of the sex ed stuff and our community is very conservative. So you can't really do anything about that. That is what it is.
Well,
but if
notice
you wanted
that
to
math is racist. Lasted the least amount of time.
We're going to
all
talk
the
about
fads.
that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But what do you think the best thing parents can do for their kids if they want? There's not a lot of private school options here. There's no charter schools, so you're kind of in it unless you want to homeschool, which I think is a great option, but not always for everyone is it possible.
The best thing a parent could do is visit themathinstitute.com. Don't get more math problems. Get solutions.
I love it. And so, okay, before we go off
my
onto
point
the,
is,
yeah.
on the website, you notice there's a teacher's manual and a student textbook. On the website, there's 2 different experiences from a student perspective or a parent perspective, and then from a teacher perspective. But the teacher perspective is also for parents, and they're different. So you're not going to be, the teachers/parents get a different video than the students because it's more geared towards how to teach it. So I teach parents or teachers some of the things that you need to make sure you point out, how to define vocabulary, how to do this, that, or the other thing. So if you're a parent trying to help your kid or you're a substitute teacher, I'm going to give you all the tools that you need to be confident delivering the lesson. Because I think we were talking about it earlier. The biggest problem that kids are having is they have somebody whispering in their ear that math is hard, or that they're not a math person, or you're going to have a calculator, or you're not going to need this when you grow. There's somebody or multiple somebodies whispering that in kids' ears, whether that be a 4th grade teacher who loves to read to kids, but they're teaching math, science, English, and history. And they love the English and history, and the science they get by because they talk about flowers. And the math, they kind of just breeze through. And it's killing kids as they go into middle school. And then sometimes in middle school, you'll have somebody who, there's a math opening at the school they want to teach at. So they take it. They're going to teach 6th grade math until that 5th grade English humanities position opens up because the school needed a math teacher and they would rather teach at that school than the others. And sometimes the kids are just not getting the education they deserve. And this will give everyone, whether you're homeschooling, charter, public, you're going to teach your own kids, your kids are going to go to a pod, your kids are going to watch the video, and you're going to watch the parent/teacher video, and then you guys are going to come together and do a couple problems. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for people because learning the math is really not hard. You know how to count. Can you count by twos? Can you count by sevens? I mean, that's the transgression. People are scared of going to take calculus. Ooh, oh my God, I don't want to, I could do good with algebra. I can't do. You know what calculus is? There's lesson 211, which is the end of pre-calculus. And then the next lesson is lesson 212, which is the first lesson of calculus. You know, it's not like, oh my God, we hit the year 2000 and the sky opened up and the internet crashed. The minute ticked by and now the calendar says 2000. You know, it's just the next lesson. You're just going to learn a little bit more. And math, I tell people, it's a puddle. It's not a well. You don't have to keep digging down and learn this to learn more math, to learn more math. No, there's stats and there's geometry and there's algebra and there's equations and there's vocabulary. And you could study geometry today. And next year we'll do statistics. And you don't have to know statistics to do geometry. But if you do, it'll help because it's all tied together. But it's not inaccessible to anybody.
Right. I think that in my case anyways, you're right. Somewhere along the way, you've felt like, or I felt like, you know, math is so hard. And then you just shut down, right? And the reality is it's like a puzzle. You just have to sit down and just do it. And I think it's a good exercise just for your brain, right? Even if you're never going to use it, which is so crazy because yeah, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But it's one of those things like knowing a second language. It just expands your mind.
And I tell people all the time, it's not, you know what an adverb is or a preposition? Mm-hmm. All right, so you do public speaking, right?
Sometimes.
You've written a speech, right?
Yeah.
Have you thought, I need an adverb here?
No.
No. Does knowing about adverbs and prepositions make you a better orator or a better writer? Yes. Are you using that skill while you're writing? No. So when I'm teaching the properties of commutative property, A plus B equals B plus A, you know, or classifying this number is rational, this number is irrational. There's no architect saying, oh, I need an irrational number here, but they understand math. And the math that they're using was easier to digest because they had the foundation of their vocabulary, of their number classification, of their properties. And again, math is just counting. And the properties are just shortcuts that we've proved that adding is just faster than counting one at a time. And multiplying is faster than adding. And exponents are faster than multiplying. And writing out the equation of a line is easier than counting if I had 575 customers with a $5 membership fee that are paying $10 a month. You know, you just find a shortcut, find an equation.
Right. And so just so you guys all know, all the listeners out there, John's not talking out of his rear end, right? You had I guess it was an actual school that you were running, right? Would you call it a school? Or?
Yeah, this is actually the relaunch of an existing business. We had Infinity the Math Institute, 2,400 square feet in the heart of Las Vegas, right where the kids needed it the most. And we were helping kids realize how much fun math is. We'd have Jeopardy and movie nights, and it was just a real healthy environment for kids to come. In the summer, I got to teach about the Constitution and taught the kids how to play guitar, but otherwise it was all centered around math, and it was wonderful. And then Sisolak shut me down due to COVID because me working with two 13-year-old kids was a threat to society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was telling me a little bit about the story, and I actually went to the center a couple times because that's where your podcast was in the back, and it was an amazing place, and you were doing amazing things, proven amazing things, really tangibly helping kids, and you said you'd been doing it for how long at that point when you got shut down?
Oh, we were open for, I think it was the 14th month was when we got shut down, and the 13th month was our first month in the black. We had a nut of about 8 to 10K between, you know, paying off loans and rent and security and all that. And we finally got enough customers where we were going to make more per month than we had to spend in order to keep the doors open, which then after that, it's the gravy, you know? And we were talking about expanding, trying to get 4 locations in Las Vegas because North Las Vegas needs the help, you know what I mean? And East Las Vegas needs the help, and Henderson needs the help. So we wanted to hit the 4 corners of Las Vegas, and things were expanding so well that things were looking very promising, not just for my wallet, but more so for the community. I've got 1 out of about 1,000 that didn't totally succeed. And that's why I don't understand. We have 12% or 19% proficiency at CCSD and at our schools. I've taught at CCSD, always over 50% proficiency. After spending a few months with me, kids are proficient. And it's not because I'm magical. It's just I convinced the kids to let their guard down, stop saying I hate math, and just understand it's just counting. Let's start at the beginning.
Gosh, there's like so many things I want to talk about on this, but like if you had to go back to your CCSD days, because you did start there, then you decided you were going to open your own business, tutoring kids. I guess it wasn't at school as a standalone, but it was a tutoring business. Like if you could wave a magic wand over CCSD, what are the top 3 problems that you would fix? Well,
first of all, obviously, all right. If I had to narrow it down, first of all, there needs to be discipline. I have taught at CCSD. I've taught at a charter school in North Las Vegas. I taught in a public school for 8 years. There has never been a fight in my classroom or in my hallway or even my portion of the school, ever. I taught at Western High School where there's multiple fights on average per day. Never one on the entire quad of my portion of Western High School. And it's because of expectations. You know, I have high expectations for these kids because they're more than capable. And I've never had a kid break down due to my high expectations. And they know there's no fighting near my school because I'm going to get pissed and they don't want me to get mad. And sometimes, you know, you got to be a fatherly figure and you got to get mad and, you know, you can't beat the kids or nothing, but you could make sure that they know that you're not pleased. And unfortunately, that also means the kids have to like and respect you. Respect more than like, but they also have to like you. They have to care what you think. My best disciplinary tactic was being disappointed in a kid. And if a kid don't like you, what do they care if you're disappointed in them? They'll tell you where to go because teachers are scared. Teachers are scared. How are you going to get some 4'11" Filipino lady who says, okay, I'll teach, biology. And then you got these kids screaming at her and, what is she going to do? And meanwhile, the school, this is going to be my next one, is too worried about liability. That's their number one concern. They're not concerned about academic performance. They'll fudge the graduation rates. They'll pass a kid if they need some extra percentage points. They'll do whatever they got to do to make the minimum. And that's also expectations. If we raise the expectations, these administrators would find a way to inch past those, but not really go beyond that. So again, it's about expectations. I got a perfect example. When I first started teaching at CCSD, I was getting ridiculous, seemingly, proficiency rates. Always over, you give me 8% of my class is proficient coming into the class, and then 58 is proficient leaving, and none of them are in the red. The ones who aren't proficient are like way improved. So I found out because my mentor teacher was really good friends with admin. Otherwise, I would have never found out. They had me under investigation for administrative cheating or test cheating or helping my kids cheat on these standardized tests. Twice it happened, 2 years in a row. And then both times they discovered that, no, all evidence points that nobody was cheating. It was done absolutely proper. Not only did they investigate, they never told me I was under investigation. They never said to me, these scores are terrific. Can you tell me, How can you coach the other math teachers? Can you tell us what you're doing? Which it's all in the book now, for anybody to have, but they weren't interested in what was working. Their first guttural instinct was to investigate me for cheating.
Wow.
That blows my mind.
That's insane.
So put your priorities straight, And then the other thing I wanted to remember was extracurricular or anything having to do with the school should be the 3 A's. It's got to do with academics, art, or athletics. That's what the kids should be working on. There's no, proud to be a Mexican club. No, you're an American. Now, if you want to have a salsa club, or if you want to have a Mexican food club, or you even want to have a history of Mexico club, that's all well and good. But just to have a club for the sake of being a certain skin color or a certain sexuality, or that blows my, that's not how we should be dividing our kids up, and we should be stopping them from dividing themselves up that way. Right. Dividing people by stupid things is killing the country, because that transforms you all who you hang out with, right? When I was a kid, all the kids who played handball and smoked cigarettes hung out together, and all the jocks hung out together. So if you have a group that's just Mexicans or just black kids, or heaven forbid, I never seen this, just the white kids, then who do you meet with in the hallway between classes? Mm-hmm. Oh, you meet with your friends who you hang out with after school, who get together because they have the same skin color or they have the same sexuality when they're 14 or 15, so they barely even understand what sexuality is. The priorities are bananas. It's bananas. Right. They should be doing math. Who could fly a kite higher? 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet. Can you even see the kite? There's things you could do to get the kids interested. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We would make choreographed dance videos just to get them interested. And then, if you don't do your math homework, you're not going to be in the choreographed video. You got to give the kids have to want to come to school.
Right.
People are always, even when I was in high school, people would be like, I can't wait till I graduate. I can't wait to be out of this place. What's wrong with these people? There's never going to be another time in your life where everybody in your neighborhood who's the same exact age as you has to come together to the same place at the same time every single day to get to know each other and learn about the world. That is heaven. That's as good as it gets. How could you hate that? I mean, yeah, they got some stupid rules and you can't chew gum in some classes. I mean, oh no. But otherwise, it's as good as it gets. I wish right now we're getting together talking about some stupid crap, learning about the world, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the kids, they do this all day, every day, with a leader who goes up there and prepares lessons for them. School is beautiful.
Well, it's like everything. Every season in life, I think you take it for granted, right? It's just part of being a human being, right? It's part of the human experience.
But we as adults need to encourage kids to appreciate more, as opposed to saying, yeah, I hated school too. That's not helping, It's
You're
just
not helping, Mom and Dad.
Fake it. Tell kids, remind them how lucky they are. Even if you don't believe it, fake it till you make it.
Man, I bet the school really loved having you around.
I can't keep my mouth shut.
So, okay, on that note, let's talk something juicy that you brought up earlier, which a lot of us conservative-leaning folks talked about during the recent years, I guess, in education, critical race theory. Without getting all political on it, I know that you talk about it in the book, but politics aside, however our personal feelings are about it, what did you see it really do to kids and in a real way, not just, critical race theory is bad. Well, why is it wrong? Why does it hurt our kids?
Another problem I had at CCSD is I replied to somebody on a Facebook post and about how I was coaching basketball at the time, and I don't know why, but 2/3 of the team happened to be black, and which I could care less. I'm from New York, and racism wasn't even really a thing. Like we would tease each other. Like we had a name for every race and ethnicity, from Italians to Jews to black kids to Hispanics. That's how you showed affection where I grew up. We would tease each other, But where was I? Oh, so I commented on the Facebook post how I explained to my kids, don't ever look for a handout. Don't ever, hope that somebody's going to give something to you. You got to work hard. You got to wake up early. You got to be at places on time, and you got to earn everything you get. And then if you get an advantage because of some social thing or because of some standard that some company or school needs to meet, God bless you. But don't ever count on that. Work hard and be the best regardless of everything. And some person who I was friends with in high school, who friended me on Facebook, said, "Oh my God, I miss you so much. You were so much fun." Blah, blah, blah. Saw that comment and called my school and demanded I got fired from New York.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, how is this? And CCSD, sure as poop, opened up an investigation into, and once again, they're like, "Oh, you didn't do nothing wrong," and I was very grounded about it. I didn't have no angle or nothing. I was just saying, guys, just work hard. That's the most important thing. Be the best you can do. And I was just delivering the message that, because this could come and go, like the border's open, right? So Biden opens the border and everybody's like, "Oh, Biden's opening the border. So let's go. Let's have a better life." And how could you blame them? And then Trump's in office now and we're closing the border and we're deporting everybody. And now I'm sure there's some bad hombres and I'm sure there's some innocent people. And I'm sure there's a middle of the road family that thought, I was never going to do it, but now everybody's doing it. I might as well. And then they did it. And now Trump's deported and they're thinking, "Oh, we're not really welcome anymore. Maybe we should go." And, you start this stuff to fund the police, right? Thank God we don't live in a democracy, right? Because 51% of people wanted to defund the police in 2020 and now it's 2025 and we don't feel that way anymore. But we would have no police if we lived in a democracy because that 51st person said no police. When these fads come and go, people start to change their life because of some political baloney. So, today the police are bad and I could dump water on them or spit on them. But in a couple of years, it's not going to be like that. And the policeman's going to remember you. The border's open today, but tomorrow the border's going to be closed and you might get deported. Today, critical race theory is a thing and we're going to hire only black pilots for the next 12 years. Well, then people realize, oh my God, that's maybe not the best idea of how to hire pilots. As opposed to, I'm going to learn everything the best that I can. And irregardless of the parameters of the position, I'm going to be the best pilot. So they're going to hire me. If they want a black person, I'm black, and if they want the best pilot, well, I'm the best pilot. If, just be the best. And it's all God's work. I tell people the same thing. If you're cleaning a toilet or if you're teaching kids math or if you're flying an airplane, and your boss is a jerk, there's never a good reason to do a half-ass job. There's never a reason to half-ass the dishes if you're washing the dishes for your parents. There's never a reason to half-study. And that's a point I wanted to get back to earlier is math is the first time kids have to take self-accountability. A parent can't memorize a kid's times tables. A kid can only memorize their times tables if they go in their room, shut the door, and memorize them. And sure, some kids it might take an hour, some kids it might take a week. But it's that mental fortitude. Not only are you training your mind to do technical things, you might not use the quadratic formula when you're an adult, just like you're not going to categorize your numbers when you're an adult. But you learning that technical thing that makes sense, but you learning how to do something a little bit technical is the push-ups your brain needs to do in order to prepare to become a real estate agent who moonlights as a podcaster. You know what I mean? Because, you got all this stuff going on in your little podcast, from the mics, the way the microphone is shaped, the lights, the noise, the echo, the production, and all this stuff is being thrown at you. And why can you do it? Because through your years of existence, you've trained your mind to be resilient, to juggle a few things at once. Maybe being a mom has taught you how to do the dishes, the laundry, the dinner, and rock the baby to sleep all at the same time. All these experiences are what you bring to the table. And what math does is it gives the kids their first real life self-experience in earning something for themselves, whether that's memorizing some definitions or your multiplication or figuring out how something fits together on the equation of a line. It's their only way. The parents can't say, oh, you know what, Caesar represents in that book. You know what I mean? There's no hints. You got to sit down and you got to memorize it. Mm-hmm. And it builds up some, it makes your hands not so soft.
Right. Mental calluses.
Yeah. And you need them. These kids have no mental calluses. You think these kids' hands are soft today. You should see their mind. They're made of mush. Sorry.
And we're reading all the time, too, with AI that it's really just like, yeah. I mean, I think it's a great tool. I love it. I use it daily, multiple times, all the time, many times a day. But you still have to be able to critically think.
And we talk about AI a lot in the book and how to use it as a tool. It's not the be all end all. It's nothing like that. You can't even use it. The best way to use AI is to be a springboard or something. You know what I mean? Hey, I want to write a lesson on the classification of real numbers. AI is going to pump out some crap. And then you could, but sometimes you're sitting there looking at a blank piece of paper. Where do I start?
Right.
Well, the AI says, all right, here's the class, here's the date, here's the objective, here's the stand. Oh, good. And then no, we're not going to do that. That's dumb, So then you go in and you edit it. If you do AI and Control P print, you're going to have crap. But if you feed the AI very specific prompts, then you edit it, and then you edit it again, and then you edit it again, you start to have something that looks pretty good. And these kids don't realize that, I'm sorry, they're getting dumber. Mm-hmm. And these kids that block out the noise and do it the right way, they're the ones who are going to be writing the AI. They're the ones who are going to be in charge. They say, maybe one day we're all going to own our own robot and send our robot to work. And whoever could set up their robot to do the most stuff will get the most money. That may or may not happen. But these kids, as less and less people are trying to do the right thing, that makes the top of the pyramid that much thinner. And then you won't have to fit some affirmative action or critical race theory quota. There's only going to be so many people that are capable of doing the work, and you're going to be one of them. And you don't have to work that hard. A half hour a day, an hour a day doing some math, and you're going to be all set. And it's also made for, you see all these adults who are just getting into politics, who are just starting to learn about astrology or history of the pyramids or ancient history. And all these things, they listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson or Carl Sagan or Jordan Peterson. And everybody, it's like you were saying, you don't appreciate it till it's gone. We all hate history, and then we turn 19 and we all start watching the History Channel because the Civil War is so damned interesting. But when you were doing it for school, you didn't really want to do it. I understand that. Well, I want to be that for math. Because if you learn a little bit of math, those Neil deGrasse Tyson or Jordan Peterson or Thomas Sowell podcasts mean so much more because math is the basis, it's the foundation of knowledge. Did I say it's God's language yet?
Yes, you did say that.
Did I say it's a puddle, not a well?
Yeah.
Did I say
Check.
Math is just counting?
Check.
Did I say don't get more math problems?
You've given this speech before, apparently. A couple thousand times. All right, well, man, now I want to go learn some math, but I don't. No.
You're the problem.
I'm the problem.
That better be the last time those words escape your lips.
Hey, as long as it comes to commission, I can learn math all day long.
Yeah, you can figure out 2% of 300,000, huh?
It's 3%. But anyway, yeah. No, but truly, just sitting here with you, I can tell you're a gifted teacher, and I'm convinced that it's because you're so passionate about it. And you could sit here and talk about it for hours.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Which I love. I mean, honestly, just being that passionate about anything in life is really what any parent, I think, wants for their kid, right?
Right.
Whether it's math or whatever. I know one of my things was politics, and for years that
I was going to
like
say, you could probably talk to me about lower taxes all day.
Yeah, like that just as long as I can remember, it lit my fire. And you've got to have that thing that gets you through everything else, right? Because like you said, you've got to have that choreographed dance
and that's
thing
the
that you're
common
looking forward
sense
to.
that math brings me. I was doing the politics and having arguments over, what is a woman? I can't do it. I can't. There's only so many times I could explain that, life has a beginning and an end. Mm. And you don't get to arbitrarily pick towards the beginning what the beginning is. Like these things are just like so obvious and so commonsensical that it's hard for me to argue. How could you think that less abortions are a bad thing? Like, you don't have to be the Pope. I'm just saying, can we agree that less abortions would be better? And if you can't agree with me with that, I got to depart from the conversation because it makes my brain hurt.
Yeah.
And math doesn't make my brain hurt.
Well, there's no, like you said earlier, there's no debating in math, I guess, right? I guess there is in higher math and things that they're trying to figure out as in relation to a lot of things like space travel or whatever they're working on. But at the end of the day, math is kind of math. There's no
and the debate
gray area.
is left for the science, for the physics, for the COVID, for this, that, the other thing. And math is the truth, the foundation by which you should be basing your arguments. Mm-hmm. That's what math is. Math is not to be debated. Math is to support your argument in the debate because that's why it's called a proof. It's a proof. Because once you prove it, we got the Pythagorean theorem. A theorem is something that's been proven. I don't have to show you why the Pythagorean theorem works. Or at least I don't have to do it more than once. I could show you once, and then after that, I could just use the Pythagorean theorem. I don't have to go back, prove the Pythagorean theorem again, and then implement it. These theorems are done. So you should learn how they developed the theorem and just understand that this is wisdom. Mm-hmm. That which does not change. And there's not a lot of wisdom in this world.
Oh, man, that's
From
so
science
true.
to history to English to blah, 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 blah. We got math and we got the Bible.
Well, there's... I'm kind of sad because I feel like there's so many things that I wanted to talk about, but maybe you'll have to come back another time and we'll have to get into...
Tangents.
No, it's just like as we were sitting here talking, I was thinking, we could have talked teachers' unions. We could have talked lots of different things. And
not light my fire.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many millions of things we could have talked about on this topic of education. But at the end of the day, what I thought would be great, the reason I thought it would be awesome to bring you on was because I know you're a gifted teacher. And when I was reading your book, I was thinking to myself, well, this is really just for teachers. But you're right, it is for parents. And
you could be a coach. You could be a guitar teacher and have kids come to your house. Or you got to go to Guitar Center. And Guitar Center says, oh, this is how you teach guitar at Guitar Center. Well, how do you maintain your individuality? How do you maintain that relationship with it? And that's, if you're the CEO of a company, you're the boy. The CEO is like a teacher of a class. I know because I've played both roles, It's how to keep you want your students or employees or your audience to like you, to respect you. So that way when you give an instruction, they do it.
Right.
You're
So
a
true.
leader. You should know,
Not anymore. Now I'm just a podcaster. No, I'm kidding.
But people like and respect you. Oh. So when you talk, people listen. And it's not because you're smart. It's because they like you and they respect you. So that's the first step to being a great teacher or a great leader. No, you might not want to be friends with your students. You might not want to be friends with your employees. But you do want to have a mutual respect for each other. Otherwise, it don't work.
Right. Well, that's so true. So, all right. Well, say you're a parent. Say you are anyone who's got, I guess, really, this applies to everything, right? So tell us about the book, the name of the book, where people can get it, give us your pitch. What should people do?
Infinity 2.0 is going to be unveiled on July 28th at the West Sahara Library, where I'm going to talk as short as possible. We'll try to limit to 30 minutes about why math is the answer. Whether it's politics or the world or your family or the Bible, it all comes back to the math. If you know the math, you can think logically. And I'm going to explain how to improve math in your life, how to improve math in your home, how to improve math in the schools, and why it's so important. With the unveiling, we'll be having our book, Teach Like It Matters, because it does. And that's, again, a blueprint for how teachers can maintain their passion and stay in the industry, because that's what we need most. And they need to be happy to stay in it. Most important is the unveiling of my curriculum. Now, the curriculum comes with a 13-volume teacher's manual, a 2-volume student textbook, or you could subscribe to themathinstitute.com, where you'll have access to all of those resources, plus videos, online tutorials. Teachers will have all the lesson plans a heart could ever desire. And it's just to make students enjoy learning math and teachers to enjoy teaching it. I took all the groundwork out of the way, and it's just there for turnkey, like a turnkey business. You open the door and you start learning math. You don't have to think, where am I going? And if that's not enough, every single lesson has 4 QR codes to other resources that will teach you math through a YouTube video, through a worksheet, through an online tutorial. There's so many resources that this is your one-stop shop for everything. Whether you're going to go take your GED, you're going to take a college entrance exam, and you want to skip a couple of Math 94 classes, if you're a parent of a homeschooler, if you're a parent of a public schooler, if you're a teacher, anybody who thinks they need more math in their life, which is everybody, can take advantage. And I'd be smitten if anybody would join us on July 28th. Go to themathinstitute.com to RSVP, to pre-order the book. And there's going to be a book signing at the event as well. And there's going to be some wonderful people there. I don't know if I want to drop any names, but we've got we got 3 terrific Republicans in the state government, and at least one of them will be there. And that's
Would it be Stavros Anthony?
And then
the governor?
And I know we're going to have some newly minted conservative trustees from CCSD in attendance, as well as some former politicians, other present politicians, teachers, principals and directors of schools, administration, other great education entities here, whether they are promoting parents or school choice and stuff like that. I don't want to drop any names because I don't want to...
Power to parent.
I don't want to drop any names because I don't want to advertise on their backs. But nonetheless, there's going to be an incredible community of people who are passionate about education. So, even if you just come and buy the book because you're not going to need the curriculum, or even if you're not going to buy the book, if you want to rub elbows with the people who are trying to get us on the right track with Nevada education, which we've got a long, long uphill battle. But the people who are trying the most, I've already got an RSVP from a few of them, and that humbles me and makes me really happy that they have that much respect. And Annie Black might even be there. You want to meet the one and only Annie Black.
The math expert herself. She'll be there.
Soon to be.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, thank you for everything you're doing. Thanks for putting your heart and soul into this and to teaching. And man, I wish my kids were back in school so I could sign them up for the course. But I do want to bring up something you mentioned earlier quickly, which is if your child is struggling in school with math, instead of getting a full-time tutor, themathinstitute.com is basically an online resource where you can sign up for group tutoring, which is like a monthly fee. And that means it's accessible to everyone, whether you have money coming out of your ears or you do not have money coming out of your ears. It's just as important for your kid to be successful in their education. And thank God, and God bless you for making it so
Thank you.
accessible to everyone. That's so important.
Well, here's the gimmick. I mean, I hate to call it a gimmick, but as I grow, I want 1 million subscribers, right? But we got to start here. We're starting local. And part of the thing of being one of the first people on board is, I'm shooting for 60, right? So if I get 60 subscribers, you guys will be able to come to my weekly online tutoring sessions, and not everybody's going to join, obviously, and it's going to be an hour or 2 hours long. So what I used to charge $80 an hour for one-on-one tutoring, anybody will be able to get free with their subscription. So, I mean, $80 would buy you like 8 months worth of tutoring. I mean, that's the whole year. And sometimes the kids will be less intimidated if they want to jump on a call for 10, 15 minutes instead of a 60-minute tutoring session. So I'm trying to give all the value I can. I'm trying to give everybody everything they can to make their lives more enjoyable and easier, but still knowing more math.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
I love it. I love your plan. I'm going to pitch your plan to everyone I talk to.
Well, God bless you, Annie Black.
Hey, that's what it's all about. So thank you guys for watching. Go check out all of John's resources for your kids, for your grandkids, for your friends' kids, for your employees' kids, everybody. Everybody needs this. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.